So it's that time of year, and it has been that time of year where everyone and their mom and their dog posts all of their games of the year and top 10 lists. I can never relate to these lists or these years in review or even really the Game Awards because, one, I don't know how you could possibly play more than 10 games, 10 big games from any given year to give any sort of semblance of a critical, comprehensive ranking. And so two, I feel like they're not actually the reality of most gamers, and so by extension, not really that relatable. So if you can't beat them, join them. I have shamelessly put together here kind of a chill retrospection of me and the games I've played this year and some of the stuff I've talked about on this channel. And the games here are things I have played to completion or otherwise, big chunk of play time, and what awards I would give them. Indulge me. I've also sprinkled in throughout some observations about some of the year's highlights for me in gaming beyond just games. And so I invite you right now and throughout this video to leave comments about your gaming highlights and who you would give my awards to in your own gaming experience journey of 2023. So welcome to Questmarker's 2023 Game Awards and other highlights. I found a script for this idea a couple years ago, and now I'm like, heck, I've always wanted to do this, so it's about time I did. And you'll also see that this video runs a little bit longer than my usual, so buckle up, buckle in. It's a Patient Gamers Award show. A quick note on the format. We've got 6-ish award things, and each will have 3 nominees to keep it simple and short. And they're games that I've played a good chunk of time on, or I finished finally in 2023. But the first award that we're going to talk about is Best Couch Co-op, and I've already cheated a little bit right out of the gate, because while I really enjoyed both the nominees of Kingdom 2 Crowns and its addictive base building formula, and For the King's tabletop whimsical but challenging adventuring and combat, I finished It Takes Two on New Year's Eve of 2022, and it has to be one of the best couch co-op games ever made. The sheer variety of this game is astounding. From snow globes to plushy toy castles, from magnets to flower pots, this game has such a terrific gameplay experience that is paced perfectly and designed so beautifully to be played with 2 players. You know those moments in games where you just want to enjoy the systems instead of progressing through the level? This has it in spades. We spent a lot of time just skating around the snow globe level or really trying to make a banger of a music track. If you have someone to play this with and you haven't played it yet, I don't know what you're doing with your life. It Takes Two wins Best Couch Co-op. But what if you want a multiplayer experience but not someone throwing pillows at you or your controllers at your TV? When we talk about best multiplayer, there's 3 multiplayer experiences that I've had with friends in 2023 that are varied. We have GTFO, Risk of Rain 2, and Heroes of Hammerwatch. Each is a very, very different experience. Heroes of Hammerwatch is kind of a grindy, top-down, dungeon crawling, goofy adventure. It's a really great game to chill out, and its chaotic nature kind of makes it always a little bit fun and exciting. Risk of Rain 2 requires a little more skill and precision, because its roguelite nature demands it, but going from a simpleton to a god is always satisfying progression. But GTFO, this was one of the games of 2023 that has been on my wish list for years, and in 2023 finally pulled the trigger on it, and this game just hits differently. It's intense, and is the ultimate game that rewards you for having a group of friends who will venture into the pitch black to fight spooky monsters to get the key thing to get the fuck out of there. I love games that emphasize light, sound, and resource management too, and GTFO has this in spades. Some people find it daunting to embark on a 2-hour mission that you can fail and have to restart from the beginning, but to my friends and I, boy, it was an immense and a rewarding challenge. After every session, we'd all be theorizing new strategies or tactics for a level when we get a chance to sit down and try it again. And man, that just means that this game is totally awesome. So what if you don't really want to play with friends? and it's not much of your jam, you're not that type of gamer, or you just want to kick up your feet and enjoy an immersive experience and feel something. We're talking about narrative, mood, atmosphere, a vibe. And so Titanfall 2, Persona 4, and Mass Effect 1 have all of this. The level design and mission structure and epicness of Titanfall 2 can't really be understated. When people say that it has one of the best FPS single-player campaigns that is on the great pedestal, probably up near Half-Life 2 and games like BioShock, they're not joking. Some of the missions are really freaking cool. And Mass Effect 1 still continues to have moments where your heart swells, even when you're playing it for the 8th time. And some of the characters, notably Rex, continue to be great examples of writing over a decade later. And I'll fight anyone who thinks Rex isn't the best companion in Mass Effect 1. But both of these games this year, to me, have been overshadowed by Persona 4. I don't know what the heck it is about this game. And I've heard about Persona for a long time. I've played other Atlas games. But weird JRPG thing, I have never played Persona before this year, and I still find it a mystery of how this game gets me to care about its world and characters. It's so ridiculous, like going into an alternate dimension in a television, yet somehow it all works. And I'm not even an anime guy. I'm still making my way through Persona 4. I clocked about 25 hours in 2023. And in that time frame, I think I'm about 2/3 of the way through the game. It has to be some of the best narrative experiences I've had in 2023. I don't know why I want to keep coming back and exploring this small town in Japan and these kooky high school characters. And Yasuke, take me away. Okay, so now we're going to go on the first of one of these little side quests where I talk about something in gaming that happened in 2023, but is not a game itself. And this is something I've wanted to talk about for a long time on this channel, actually, but it's not really something that I'll ever be able to make a full video about, and that's Game Awards. My first interaction with the Video Game Awards and some of the criticism and critique that came out of it was actually a Play, Watch, Listen podcast from many, many moons ago, where Austin Wintory described some of his displeasure and how they treated Best Music as an award in its presentation.
There's a few things I'm not a fan of. I'm not a fan of they did music as a pre-show toss-away category. And there were a bunch of other categories as well. Just like, okay, we're just going to blitz through here. Like at one point, he just kind of read off like, here's 3 more categories. Congrats to the winners. Moving on to the next trailer. And I'm like, is it an award show celebrating the...
We discussed this exact thing last year because they did it with Performance last year. And
yeah, I know.
So I've kind of always been a little bit suspicious of the Video Game Awards ever since. And so one of the big zeitgeisty discourse conversations that happened towards the end of 2023 was about Jeff Keighley's Video Game Awards and the fact that presenters didn't have enough time to speak. It felt very rushed. It was 3 hours, but only maybe 90 minutes of it actually had to deal with game developers' games and awarding them. And so some people still really think that the Video Game Awards are something they're not, that they're 100% an award show dedicated to champion games. And let me do some further time traveling with you for a moment, because it's never been about 100% being an award show, even way back when Spike put it on back in the day. It's riddled with marketing, and it's going to always be riddled with marketing. This doesn't make it objectively bad, but for what it is, it's something. The Video Game Awards is something. Personally, it's not for me. I'm at the age and stage of my life where I deeply want to hear more from the makers of the games, and I care less and less about new video game announcements. So, this is just my side quest to remind you all about other game awards, and primarily I want to call out the BAFTAs. This has a lot more of a rigorous voting and selection process, because funnily enough, that Play, Watch, Listen episode talked more about it. And the BAFTAs are run by an independent arts charity in the UK. There's not as much of a drive to sell. It's going to be hosted this year on Thursday, April 11th. I'm really going to try to tune in this year. I try to make it a promise every year, but I always seem to forget. So if you're one of the people complaining about Jeff Keighley's show, and you actually really give a shit about games, then I encourage you to watch the Video Game BAFTAs. You can actually look at the long list that has been released already. And if you don't watch, I'm not saying I'm gonna judge you, but... Okay, now that one of my 2023 observations is out of the way, let's get to talking back about game studios. The little wee ones. We're not going to go on an existential tangent of what indie is because I've already picked the games that qualify for best indie, so I've already gone on that existential tangent. You're welcome. So best indie games. So Sable, Slay the Spire, and Doom and Destiny are all wildly different games. And Doom and Destiny, probably on this list, you're probably looking at like, this game doesn't look that good. And you're probably right in that it isn't the most terrific or original, but it's a satirical homage to RPGs and turn-based games of old. And for me in 2023, it was a comfort food that I finally indulged in. And thanks to owning a Steam Deck now, and more on Steam Deck later, teaser, it's not something I'd ever sit down at a desk to play. And so kind of indulging in Doom and Destiny was fun. I liked it. I played it every night for a week or two, and I think that has a lot of value. Speaking of value, Slay the Spire is slick as heck and provides such countless hours in its deck building roguelite journey. This is a crunchy game that I finally got around to playing in 2023, and it's worth every penny. As a longtime Magic the Gathering player, I always enjoy seeing and playing other deck building games, and Slay the Spire's roguelite nature obviously set a whole new sort of indie genre trend, and I keep coming back to this game, and it's been a lot of fun to play. I continue to do runs every kind of like week or so, and it's great. I think Slay the Spire is great, and it's a great indie game, and it deserves to kind of be up here. But if you've been following me, you'll know that this award goes to Sable. I love Sable. I think Sable is always going to have a special place in my heart. From the music to the visual aesthetic to the lore. When I talked about It Takes Two, I mentioned how one thing that enraptures me about video games is moving through the world, moving through a world. And Sable, like that Sable is this as a game. I think it's one of the best indie games I've played this year, and it's certainly the best in this category. So we're going to have a groovy disco sidebar thing because you're probably maybe wondering, some of the stuff I'm flashing up on screen occasionally is this weird webpage called Groovee. I think that's how you pronounce it. That's how I pronounce it. So I just wanted to give a quick shout out as we start a new year, because this great website is basically the Goodreads version for video games. As an avid reader, I always use Goodreads as kind of my reading log and motivator and occasional discussion voyeurism place. And Groovee does the same stuff. I find it an elegant way to keep track of your games and see what other folks are up to. There's a paid version, which I've been using for a couple years now, and I still think it's relevant even in the age of Steam Review. So this is just an FYI sidebar. If you're ever looking for can I have a video game version of Goodreads? Groovee is your place for it. So we're at the most challenging category for me, and it's at our second last before we get to some honorable mentions, and then my favorite overall game of the year but not of this year award. And it's the most surprising in a good way. A Short Hike and Vampire Survivors are both games with incredible reviews that I knew looked like something, but was still pretty cautious going into them. Surely they cannot be that good. These games are really good. Vampire Survivors for me took a little longer to see the light than A Short Hike. Some of the first missions I was like, what is going on here? I'm not very good at this. But once I started to figure out what actually was going on and some of the synergies and strategies, oh boy, this is an amazing game. And I was surprised about what it actually was about. The Short Hike was kind of the same. Again, the theme of this video is maybe moving through worlds, I think. And just flying and running around this mountain island getaway is a delight. A Short Hike was a game that lasted only for about 90 minutes, about the duration of A Short Hike. And I think it's well worth it for anyone to try, both Vampire Survivors and A Short Hike. But if we're really talking about surprising, in the totality of a surprise, Voidspire Tactics. And I've made a whole review about this game. I don't want to really add a whole lot more. I know this game, guys, looks so lame. It looks really bad. I don't really think it looks really that good at all. It's as visually interesting as a rock. And I bounced pretty hard off of it in the beginning of 2023. But if you've seen my review, then you know that this took me by the horns later in the year and didn't let go until I finished it. The interactivity and the progression systems were incredibly addicting, and they took a little while to get started. But when they did, I went, whoa, this game has got stuff going on underneath the hood. And when it clicked, it was all I was really playing until I finished it. It's about a 15-hour experience-ish, and I don't even think I did all of the secret stuff, and there's some secret stuff going on here. So this is the award for me most surprising in a good way that had the closest three-way tie. But if we're really talking about the truest of surprises, Voidspire Tactics has to just slightly eke out the other nominees to wear the crown. Okay, so we're now in the honorable mention stuff. Some games that didn't really quite fit into an award category, but stuff I just needed to talk about because it's 2023 and we're talking about things in the totality of it. So the first honorable mention category is most surprising in a bad way. Yeah, we're going to be a little bit of a negative Nancy here for a little bit. We're not going to go full on Debbie Downer, so just let me dwell in my sorrows. And the first thing to dwell on is Uncharted Drake's Fortune. Holy man, this game does not age well. 2007 was clearly a different time. Naughty Dog was clearly a different studio. There are some cinematic moments in this game, but the combat is so unbelievingly mind-numbing, it's crazy now to think how gaming has evolved so far past this. This story is riddled with tropes. The platforming is just, I guess it's foundational in some way. You gotta have some little yellow little ledges and stuff. But it's kind of boring. This game is boring. The characters are well acted, but they're underwritten. Cartoonish, maybe? This is one of the few games that I have finished solely out of obligation as I get through the Uncharted collection on PlayStation so that I can finally get to the hopefully good stuff in Uncharted 4. I just want to swing on a rope and punch somebody. Anyways, Uncharted Drake's Fortune. I would not recommend you go back and play this game. Most surprising in a bad way. I was kind of hyped. I had friends who really liked Uncharted growing up. Maybe that was because it was 15 years ago. I don't know. Okay. The Legend of Korra is shockingly bad. You can't really find this game anymore, so you don't have to worry about it. But we just need to take a second to really acknowledge how much of a wasted opportunity this game is. Sure, the elemental fighting stuff and the power unlocking is cool. Swapping between elements, very cool, but that's about it. I don't know how one of the animated shows that is most revered for its writing has basically no story whatsoever. I don't understand how that adds up. I don't know how a game by Platinum Games has some of the most mundane and boring enemy design and encounter design. It's got a temple run minigame. It's got this underbaked pro bending thing that you think is going to have more of a role, but it does not. It's just not cool. You can't find this game anymore, so it's not really harming anyone anymore. But what it has left me feeling and wanting and wondering about is, what if we actually had a good Avatar game? And not the Blue People, that came out. I'm talking about a good Avatar The Last Airbender game. Because it's kind of got the mix of stuff that you would expect. Interesting world, cool characters, cool progression system stuff. Combat could be really sick. Obviously makes movement and part cool. Yeah, see? Makes you wonder. Legend of Korra, though, surprisingly bad. Bad. So last in this category of honorable mentions, most surprising in a bad way, we gotta talk about Guild Wars 2: The Icebrood Saga. It's this quasi-expansion thing, and I'm perpetually an expansion or two behind in Guild Wars 2, and yeah, I play MMORPGs, what are you gonna do about it? Charge a fireball at me? Icebrood has, surprisingly, some of the best moments in Guild Wars 2 story. It's got some of the coolest characters, it's got some of the coolest areas, but I was so incredibly stunned by the sheer velocity the back half of this expansion has. You move at such a clip through what should be some real moments of gravitas and epicness. I don't really get it. They also totally cut a centaur-focused storyline, which makes me really sad, having played this game all the way back at launch and a human as my first character, which makes it all about centaurs, so it would be cool to kind of close that loop. Nope, no loop closed. and they should have let Bram die. And yeah, I know that the devs had a lot of constraints and pressures when it came to the Icebrood saga, but still, most surprising, most shocking in a bad way. So the second honorable mention category is games I finally finished in 2023 that I probably should have finished a long time ago. Grim Dawn has been one of those games I can never make it more than a dozen hours into before I have the very strong urge to remake a character and try something that I think would be more interesting. But not this year. Not this year. I finally got through it. I think this has to be one of the best, if not the best, not fully online ARPGs. I really like the design of the world and the lore and most of the systems, but something about the classes in this game always feel just a little bit off to me, and that's probably my biggest complaint about this game, and why I've always struggled to commit to a single build to make it all the way through. But I finally beat the base game, and so I'm definitely going to try to sink my teeth into the DLC for it in 2024. And so if you're looking for an ARPG without the pressure of seasons and microtransactions, if you want to mix up your ARPG palette between Diablo and Path of Exile, go for Grim Dawn. Really good. I also finally got through XCOM 2 War of the Chosen. I'm a tactics guy. I like XCOM. I am not the best XCOM 2 player. I don't know the build orders. I like playing really aggressively in combat encounters, and I just loathe defensive and cautious play. See my video on Into the Breach about why I'm really bad at it. I have failed a lot of Iron Man runs in XCOM 2, and I refuse to play anything other than an Iron Man run because I feel like that's the way that the game is meant to be played. And I've played both in vanilla and the Long War mods, but this year, even after nearly getting a full wipe, after trying to take down the assassin in his stronghold, I persevered. Because that was the most challenging point of the entire game. XCOM 2 is fun, but man, does this game drag on in the final third. I found some surprisingly very strong parallels with Civ 6, as the other Firaxis titan of a game also really struggles to find its footing in the third act of any Civ 6 game. In XCOM 2, the early game is so incredibly difficult and intense, and just tense, and I really do like that. Moving every soldier can potentially have just such crazy consequences, and it really makes you think, and it makes you sweat. But after that first stronghold mission, where only 2 of my soldiers survived out of 6, taking down the assassin, that was as hard as it got. I only lost a soldier or failed a mission from that point onwards because I was being really stupidly bullish in my tactics. So in other words, it was my fault. And so I just wish it was a little bit more. But still, XCOM 2 is a defining tactics game. I still had a lot of fun with it, but I wish it could keep some of that early brilliance going into the finish line, because the finale was a little bit flat. The last game of the honorable mentions is Hades. I finally got around to beating it in March of 2023. Even though I had been playing it for a while, I finally kind of got through the bulk of the runs in 2023. And you might be wondering, Hades? This hasn't appeared in any of the other sort of categories so far. John, what the heck are you doing? And honestly, the affect of Hades, that it was good. It was good. I think that you cannot possibly understate how beautifully designed it is, visually, narratively, musically. I think that as a roguelite, it does a lot of really great things. But for me, it was just really solid. And I think I have this weird relationship with Supergiant games where I always appreciate them, but they never quite seem to move me as perhaps the majority does. And one of the things that always kind of gives me a little about roguelite games is that I often find you discover too early or too late what sort of experience is the most optimal and fun for you. And for me, Hades fell into I discovered kind of what I like to play too early. It made it kind of repetitive the more I played, because I always rushed Athena and Apollo, and I really liked the melee weapons, and I kind of had discovered that after the first 1 or 2 successful runs, and I didn't really want to deviate much further from that. So by the end, I really kind of felt like it was a slog to get through. And I know you can increase the heat difficulties and all of that, but it just wasn't for me. I wouldn't want to say that Hades overstayed its welcome, but something about it kind of just felt a little off towards the end. I know some people like it, some people love it. but Hades was just good. It was just a really good, solid game, and to me, was kind of maybe like the lurking fourth in some of these categories, but never really quite made it onto the podium for discussion. But yeah, Hades, really great. Excited to see how they shake it up for Hades 2, because I think they're going to need to shake it up. Before we get to my gaming podium of 2023, I have to talk to you about some of the tech that defined being a gamer in 2023. And it's the Steam Deck. I got one back in the early summer of this year, and then I upgraded to the OLED version in early December, and this thing is truly awesome, my dudes. It is great. I grew up with a Game Boy Color being my first console I owned. Handheld gaming holds a very special place in my heart, so being able to play Mass Effect 1 on your mom's back deck in the summertime instead of locked up in the basement like a pale kid, it's crazy. The Steam Deck lets you just play games in your backlog that I would just never have the patience to sit at a desk to play. And I don't have to be in one particular spot in my house anymore to play PC games. I can just do it basically wherever. Also, letting it dock to any screen, making it like a Switch. Oh, so now I can do PC couch co-op anywhere. This is so cool. 2023 was my year of the Steam Deck. I really recommend this device to anyone who wants to play their Steam titles, but sometimes finds sitting at a desk constraining or isolating, or I recommend this to anyone who loves handheld gaming. It accounted for a fifth of my total Steam playtime this past year in 2023, and I bet that's only going to go up and up into the future. Okay, so now we're on to the final award, and so I don't actually like defining a game of the year, but rather my kind of gaming podium. What 3 games sort of define and shape the fun and the uniqueness and the awesomeness of gaming in 2023? Those have to be GTFO, Persona 4, and It Takes Two. There are another handful of games that really vied to be on the podium here. Sable, A Short Hike, Vampire Survivors, but I think GTFO, Persona 4, and It Takes Two are my top games. These are the experiences that I've never had before. And when I predict, when I think back on 2023 in the future, like, I don't know, next year, these are going to be the 3 gaming experiences that will have shone the brightest. So thanks everyone. Before we wrap up, and as you've been thinking about and sharing what are your top games, let me know what fit into these categories for you. What are your winners? What are your top picks? What do you think of my game award thing? Am I totally wrong on any of them? Because I could be. As always, with these sort of year-end things, we gotta have a brief look ahead in 2024. And I'm gonna keep that really short as to what game I'm really chomping at the bit for, and it's Hellblade 2. Look at this trailer.
Now's the moment. Get ready. First the oil, then the fire. Yes, yes. Now, go! Yes!
It's so freaking cool. Hellblade 1 haunts me still. I'm so excited for Senua's next journey. Thanks for watching or listening, everyone. It's now time for another very long outro, so stick around for that, and if not, I'll see you throughout 2024. Hey everyone, long outro time because Magical Christmas Land happened in December for me. I finally reached 1,000 subscribers after doing this YouTube thing for about 5 years. And so I wanted to give a quick thanks to all my subscribers. You are the first 1,000. And as I've reached that milestone, it's really meant a lot. So thanks everyone. I do want to do a quick, I want to do the classic milestone thank you video sometime in the near future. And I had a poll thing back in December to get your direction on what you'd like to see. So I think that poll thing is still open. There's going to be links into the description below, as well as links for a bunch of other stuff. So if you haven't voted for that poll thing, I want this video to be directed by you all. That's the whole point of having this YouTube stuff, is that I sometimes don't need to be thinking of things in isolation. Or if you don't want to do the poll thing, please leave a comment for what you'd like to see in a classic milestone thank you video, or leave a question that you would want me to answer in that thank you video, something to do about the channel or games or whatever. So I hope you're enjoying or have enjoyed the season and you're having a terrific start to 2024. And just remember, everyone, games are awesome.